See, so, they're so ambiguous with this stuff. It's, the big thing is, the NCAA wants to get their money from bowl games and gate receipts and everything else. I think a long time ago.
Live. You're live.
We're live.
Huh?
You're on the city recording now.
Oh, I'm sorry, folks. Well, we have a quorum. I hereby open this meeting of the Human Relations Commission.
All right, the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I guess the first thing is to call of order. Roll call, please.
Anthony Harris,
Present.
Darlene Walk, Valerie Cruz, Darcy Munden,
Present.
Greg Peugeot,
Present.
Taylor Suffin,
Present.
Kirsten Pooh,
Present.
So I assume we have a quorum, and
Correct.
Chief D'Amico, you're here. Chief Oliver? Here. Stu Hastings,
Here.
Kathy Myers,
here.
and Dr. Richard Coombs.
Here.
I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Motion to approve?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. The activity, the National Civic League Civic Index Assessment, I assume that's you, Marcus?
That is correct, and thank you for that, and welcome you all here. We had a presentation in our last meeting that talked about the Civic Index and creating a plan and operationalize that and get out into the community. And I wanted to give you all an opportunity to go through it and fill it out and get your insights as part of this. And also, we did have the invitation to participate in the Leadership Ohio Join or Die screening, and I was happy to see some of the members out at that. It was a very interesting documentary that talked about civic capital and civic engagement in our country and the dire need for us to be able to raise that. And so I think it's very apropos here in 2025 when we have a lot of different things. We're kicking off our strategic plan. We have charter review that comes up in every 5 years in 2025. And so no better time, I think, in terms of civic engagement and looking at that. And there's a couple things in terms of why we're having this conversation. So, of course, we've talked, and it's been brought up at several other meetings of boards and commissions about meeting attendance and trying to get that out. I also did meet with the schools on that suggestion. So we do have the opportunity to kind of get into one of the schools and conduct one of these civic index meetings as well. But looking at those indicators of civic capital, civic engagement, you have our meeting attendance, which is a qualitative thing, and then you're looking at voter turnout. If you look at this last election, looking at the different precincts within the city of Sandusky, voter turnout was not good. We had an overall county average of 73%, but in many precincts within the city, it had a hard time hitting 60%. Only 2 precincts within the city actually had a strong showing, and I have a wonderful data dashboard that if you want to connect with me offline, I can show you, but that would be the Chaussee, which was somewhere around, I think, 80%, and then Precinct P, which is the West End, which is around 72%. And everything else was in the low 60s or the 50s. And so when I looked at the trend line and you did that across a number of different variables, I'm able to map census data to voter precincts. If you know anything about social science, it had like a 0.63 adjusted R squared with a p-value so low that it's not probable, it's not something that's by accident. It is actually a strong indicator to show that we are not civically engaged. And so the activity that we have here, as you look, you all have the worksheet, and this is what's going to be done and conducted, looking at putting out 2 meetings per month heading into our next meeting, which would be in March. We have to work with the chairman to set the date on that. And these are, small group activities, 10 to 15 people that you want to bring in. So we're looking at locations such as the Ram School, Mylander Plaza, the Sandusky Adult Education Center, Ontario School, the preschool, getting into the neighborhoods in these areas, especially those precincts that had turnouts in the 50s. We really want to go into those areas because you can see that the indicators are low there. And so as you look at your index that you have in front of you, as you see, it's a series of questions. And I want you to kind of look at this and take a moment in time to fill it out, right? We're going to take about 10 minutes for you all individually to fill these out. And then after that, have the conversation that comes to that, and then we can skedaddle. But I want you to think about your shared community, not only as your neighborhood, but the places and the spaces that you go on a day-to-day within the boundaries of the city of Sandusky. That is our shared community, not just your neighborhood, but at the pier or at the parks, the grocery store, things of that nature. And when you're rating these different factors, think about the full diversity of the community, not just whom you interact with most frequently, and try not to dwell on it too long. Don't think too hard about it. Go with your best sense of what you feel, and we'll have time to discuss those thoughts afterwards. So just take, whatever time that you need, and just let me know when you guys have filled it out, and we'll move on from that point, okay?
Yeah. I have a question about your form, Mr. Marcus.
What was that again, sir?
I have a question about your form.
Yes.
Count check marks in these columns to find your overall score.
Mhm.
I mean, if you got a column, you got a check mark in the column what are you tolling? What columns are you tolling? These columns.
Yeah, it's each column is individualized, so however how many, if you have, this is a challenge for us, you total up those check marks in that column to find your.
Where are you putting the total at?
Moderate strength and real strength, those two, the last two columns, moderate strength, and this is a real strength, so however how many that you have in those.
All right. This is where it's confusing on this sheet. Okay, I've got a moderate strength column.
Mhm.
I count all the check marks in there. Where do I put the total?
So that would be that blank right there. So your moderate strength column from both sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you put the, right there in that column.
Okay, what about the other ones?
We don't count we don't have this, or it's a challenge for us, because you're counting those strengths. And if you don't have a lot of strengths, then by nature, you're weak in that particular regard. And then that would be the total score, the tally of those two. A great sign of people being done is I'm looking for pens down. Thank you, Counselor. In my younger days, I would have played the Jeopardy theme song.
I got accepted as a Jeopardy contestant. Question is, do I want to go or not?
Go. YOLO, as the kids say.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Excuse me.
Mhm.
I don't understand the scoring as well.
All right, you count the checks in that
Yeah.
column, put that number,
Just this column?
just that
You don't
column.
count the other ones?
Yes.
All righty, and then one.
Right, then you add
Keep
those
to me,
together
though.
for your
How the
final.
boys doing?
All right.
Pardon me?
How the boys doing?
All right, I added.
They're doing pretty good. I got, Another one's made a wife as a teacher this year.
I know.
He actually got an A, I think. That might be a first.
What? From the evil Mrs. Harris?
What's your say?
All right, we got, everyone got them tallied up?
Not gonna
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
While we're waiting for that last one, just for this next, as this discussion, it is most definitely an exercise in civic dialogue, right? There are no right or wrong answers. There is no persuasion or convincing. Like each person's answers are their own perceptions and assessment of these particular things, and so it's not really about a right or wrong thing. It's really the answers and just being able to respond and share that transparently. So that's the civic, civil dialogue and civil engagement in that piece of it.
Would there be a way to, and maybe there isn't, I wasn't at the last meeting, to publish this online and like collect data from residents?
Yeah,
To
and that's
see-
that's the overall goal at the end point is collecting from all of these different meetings and, analyzing the data. And then in part of these small group discussions, there are worksheets which you would take the words back, kind of get some themes, overarching themes from those, but then assessing the overall data and reporting out on that.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Taylor, aren't you suggesting that this form be put online for the general public?
Yeah, because without seeing what our data is going to say, I have assumed that like preaching to the choir, we're all here. So our idea of engagement is probably different than the general public. So when I look at, see these questions, it's probably, I see it skewed towards what I see, whereas someone who doesn't feel the necessity to come here might see it differently.
And so far as someone simply across the street from you, you don't necessarily see these questions in the same light that they would. So is it possible to put something like this online? I mean, and whatever respondents you get, like in a mass email, whatever respondents you get, take, evaluate from that.
In terms of like the process, and you couldn't put it online and do it like in a survey fashion, that you would want to do that. But that second piece of it is the actual discussion piece. That's the qualitative and the quantitative piece. And together, you get the answers out of that. So if you did it online without these discussions,
Well, let me ask
then
this
you
question.
would lose the reliability in the methodology.
Well, let me ask this question. If the Nielsen's and the other polling places can send out mailers.
That's a poll and a mailer. This is a different
Well,
process.
let me finish,
Yeah.
let me finish. And they send those things out in a mailer and get respondents, that's what they get their quote-unquote bases from. Couldn't something like this be sent out to the community so you get an idea of what the community thinks about these things?
You could, but then it would be something different. It would change the methodology of what the Civic Index is from the National League of Cities, and you want to try to stay
Okay,
true to the
So what you're
methodology.
telling me is the Civic Index is based on a limited number of people.
The sample size, yeah. What you want to do is small groups. Like these, it's more of a qualitative, mix of qualitative and quantitative.
Well, like Taylor said, we're here. We see some of the inner workings and things that go on. The people that aren't here are the people you're trying to reach.
And that's why we go out into the public. And that's the next phase, next step. Meetings in the community will be out into the public, into the spaces, especially those areas that are highlighted, that you make that correlation between voter turnout and civic engagement, that you go to those areas and you are in those areas. You advertise in those areas, publicize, and go to the people in those areas to be able to have
Aren't you
responsive discussions.
afraid that by having these public meetings, you're only going to get that 50% that voted, 50% that concerned about the community at those meetings?
That is a possibility.
So how are you going to reach out to those other people?
You got-
Are you worried about spoiling the data set the other way by inviting it to the public and they don't have to do anything else rather than click a button? So you get I get where like it could skew this way with us, but it could skew the other way with the people who aren't going to show up to anything anyway.
Exactly.
I have a question about
Yeah.
that. It was, early voting was record numbers for the state of Ohio, and that parlays into some people on the voting day for the precincts. I make sure you have that. If I voted early, I didn't vote at my precinct, so that doesn't parlay into those numbers.
You're still assigned to your precinct.
Even
Like-
with the early voting?
Yep.
That was my question.
Yep.
Very good.
So, real quick, so we can get this, were there any surprises that made you think about those questions? And any of the answers that you had, were there any surprises in your scoring that made you really think, wow? I know for me, it was, we honor and highlight the contributions of the community's full diversity in our public spaces. I feel like that's a real strength of the city of Sandusky. When you look at Facer Park, when you look at the project that we are embarking on with the Underground Railroad at the actual sites, Washington Row, a lot of the different things, as I did not know that I grew up on the name of the street of the first mayor of Sandusky, Farwell. Like, I didn't know that. But, you know, we have that out there. So that part was like, I was like, yes, happy to see that question. And I feel to say yes to that. But any other people may feel different. So any other people have any surprises that made you think from that?
Yeah, the authentic communication says we have many trusted civic-minded sources of information and news in the community. I don't think we have that. I think that's a challenge for us and needs improvement. Because there are not that many trusted sources of civic-minded sources of communication and information in this community. I think Dr. Kuntz's podcast and messages on Facebook, you know, are more trusted and valued than that of the Register, you know, and the local radio station, you know, I listen to it for a few minutes and it's like, oh, you know, if I don't hear anything really interesting, I tune it off, you know, and they've done nothing for me, that is, to secure my trust in their reporting, and the fact that they are not skewed to only speaking of a certain segment of the community and not representing the community as a whole.
Any other surprises?
I can say when I saw authentic communication, and I understand where Mr. Harris is coming from, you know, to be absolutely honest with you, I just kind of dismissed the Register. And I wasn't thinking about the Register. I'm just being honest. And the reason why is because I looked at trusted sources and civic-minded sources of information as those entities and government bodies, and whether you're talking about the school or the city, where you can actually get the information and go, and it's coming straight out of the horse's mouth. So that's what I look at as trusted sources of information, not what somebody else gets to write about and to basically spin it, basically go to one source, not have a fair and balanced coverage, right? Going directly to the source. That's how I looked at that question, right? So it's open, right? So
Any other surprises?
I think when I think about the city of Sandusky generally, civically, I think we're doing much better than like the surrounding local communities. But then I look at my score and we did very poor on my score. So I'm like, well, maybe we're doing better than other areas, but we're not doing so well here as well. So that kind of shocked me. That was surprising to me. I got a 12 here, which is on the low end of the spectrum.
now Taylor raised an interesting point just in his comments, and that is compared to other communities. Personally, I don't know what other communities are doing. Regardless of what
Countywide,
Yeah, I'm just
Perkins Township, you know.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't know what they do. I don't know what their civic engagement is with their citizens, who comes to meetings, who brings up interesting and compelling points about what's going on with regard to decisions that are being made. I don't know that. But I do know, sometimes when we think about civic engagement, the first thing that comes to mind is voting, right? But when I think of civic engagement, I think about residents who care so much about what's going on, and they'll have so much to say in their pockets and in their neighborhoods about what's going on, but they don't come here, right? And generally what I've seen in my time, not just in Sandusky, is that the people who really care and have something to say will also know what to bring to the table in terms of they're thinking critically about not just critiquing or criticizing, but they're also saying, have you thought about possibly doing A, B, or C, right? So civic engagement for me is identifying those people who become a part of, you know, you've heard this before about part of the process and a part of the solution, if there's a problem, right? And so that's what I don't see much of. Now, what you'll often hear is that, well, when people don't show up, they're happy. That's not necessarily so.
You know, I don't think
Right? So, but at the same time, there's a certain point, and I'm gonna wrap it up here. There's a certain point when you don't see that kind of engagement where, yeah, you continue to try to let people know and inform them and all of those things, but at some point you say, this is what it is. And hasn't it been that way, like for quite some time?
Indeed.
Yes, I think a lot of the people in the community figure it's like,
Well, hold on. I want to get ahead of, because we are on like question 3, which are the needs the most work. 2, I want to talk real quick. 1 or 2 components or categories that you feel the community is the strongest.
One area that I felt like we were really strong was that we have a strong sense of attachment to and pride in our neighborhoods and community. I think uniquely Sandusky is very neighborhood-based, and you see that top to bottom within each pocket. They're very proud within their pockets.
I had that too,
Yeah, that one as well.
yeah.
Any other two strengths that you all have kind of marked out?
Most of mine were under authentic communication, right? Because I do believe that local government and other groups provide the information in the languages that people can understand. It's whether or not the people are accessing the information for themselves. I think that the government does a good job of that, right? I'm able to find what I need, right? And so I think it's in a language that I can understand, and I think it's in a language that most can understand, right? But also with regard to having, I actually said it's a moderate strength, and I said it because we have authentic two-way communication between members of the community, the government, and other institutions. It's one thing to allow the public to speak, right? But it's quite another thing to actually engage in conversation after a question has been asked, and we tell them we're going to have somebody get back to you. Now, I don't know what that looks like for anybody else in this room. I know what it looks like for me. I know that if I promise that I'm going to get back to you, then I'm going to tell you what I found out. I don't know what that looks like, but I think that for the most part, based upon what I'm seeing so far with John as the city manager, I think that he goes directly to the people who he's in charge of giving the instructions to, hey, commissioner said this, can you check on that? And he gets back to me all the time.
well, you know,
With what happened.
I can say from personal experience that the police department responds to citizens calling about questions or issues. I know I've personally contacted Chief Oliver about situations, and he's gotten back with me, directed me to the source that could help me, and things like that. So that department, I give firsthand knowledge of the fact that they do work with the community and are interested in what's going on and citizens of the community concerns. So that's from firsthand experience. Now, I haven't had a fire, and I don't want to call Chief D'Amico, but I do know that, my wife has had situations at school that if there's a problem arises, he's right there, He's right there, he's on the ball, he's concerned about what's going on, what's taught to his children, who's teaching his children, and how they're teaching his children. So that's an involvement that I see from another part of the community, not just as Chief D'Amico. So that's something that I think he carries over to his job as chief of the fire department. So those two departments, I can say, yes, I do have trust in them and think that they are a strength for our community.
All right. Any others?
Yep, and I can say the same thing, because I've had communication with both Chief D'Amico and Chief Oliver, and always get back to me about any questions that I have, any concerns, so.
I marked us pretty highly on almost everything under collaborative institutions. I think that now more than ever, cross sectors of business, government, and schools and civic associations, we work together to find solutions, especially when our children are involved. My brain goes automatically to COVID when we learned we had to shut down for 3 weeks, and a group of 30 of us sat in a room trying to figure out how we were going to feed kids breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and came to a conclusion within a few hours. And there's been a number of instances over the last few years where I think prove that everyone's willing to work together to try our best for the people in our community.
Yeah. You all have any strengths that you fall in the kind of like the real strength category that you're able to kind of?
Other than thanks for the kind words. That's exactly how our departments are supposed to be.
Hey, well, we appreciate you, believe me.
Excellent, excellent. So, so we covered those strengths. Now, real quickly, just one or two components. Where do you think the community needs the most work? The one thing that I had for me was we have programs to develop leaders from all backgrounds, ages, and sectors, especially those from traditionally marginalized communities. I feel that is a challenge to develop leaders. In that manner, a broad-based or from all different sectors. We have leadership development programs, we have leadership development opportunities, and I think one of our challenges is keeping the leaders here. And then the other one was we have many resident-initiated and resident-led community neighborhood organizations and activities. I think that when I think about that, I think of like a resident board, a neighborhood board, like, and they celebrate and block parties within their own communities and their neighborhoods, or they have concerns within their neighborhoods and they bring as a neighborhood representative. I know that was something that was mentioned in our strategic plan. One of the outcomes is to try to make that a little bit more robust, to have that dialogue between the neighborhoods. And so that part I saw as, we don't have that, because we don't have it yet, but we're looking to try to spark that. Any others? I know you guys jumped ahead a little bit. Any other ones?
You know, the thing that I don't see in that collaborative institutions, we don't have regular established opportunities for information sharing and decision-making across various sectors. I don't think we have that.
Mm-hmm. And what makes you say that?
Well, for one thing, you know, in order for something like that to happen, I think there needs to be more, you know, you hate to say a delineation of the various communities, but just like the block parties you were talking about, there needs to be a more concerted effort by the commission to teach people how to establish neighborhood organizations, you know, to bring issues to them, you know, block watches, you know, which could help the police force. And, you know, there needs to be a more conscientious effort by our community leaders like the commission to let people know that if you need to start a community organization, a block watch, a neighborhood organization, we're going to help you and give you the tools to try to do that. You know, even if it's one person from that community, but if they can be taught how to go out in that community and approach their neighbors and ask them to be a part of this type of situation, I think that will go a long way in helping to create a better and more open dialogue, because you have a central group in each neighborhood to go to find out what are the issues that are troubling you, what are the problems you're having, what would you like to see us do to help make it a more cohesive community.
Mm-hmm.
To piggyback on that, we used to do that better with Mr. Floor, with the Neighborhood Initiatives Coordinator. Used to be a position the city have. I know that they hired it out and then it got absorbed into something different. But having a Neighborhood Initiatives Coordinator again would help people have someone to go to say, how do I set this up? What do we do here? Looking at the last not strategic plan, maybe master plan, where they had all these beautiful neighborhood initiative drawings and sketches. And I was like, man, that looks really good. We did almost none of that. We do have $5 million getting work done out here, but like, you know, I mean, that doesn't skew well with the public. You know, I remember that. I'm like, man, this is really good. And we had a neighborhood initiatives coordinator who was setting up things in the neighborhoods, you know, having parties, having a mobile splash pad. We don't have that recently. So that is something we could work on that we were doing better 5 years ago in my opinion.
Great feedback, great feedback. So you guys kind of bleeded into the last question, which would probably be a good way to end it, is that what are some small steps that we can take as a community to build our civic capital in the areas in which you think we need the most work? I think, for me, just to kind of kick it off, is that the area where it talked about the leadership development programs from all backgrounds and marginalized communities, I think in order to keep leaders, they need opportunity. And I think as we are able to provide broad-based economic opportunity for people, it will be the hook to keep more individuals who have that gift and that spark for leadership in our community. And I think that's a small step that we can take towards that, is just starting to cultivate that environment that attracts those types of economic opportunities to keep people here. Because as I often go back to our Leadership Ohio, when we went down to the Innovation Station in Cincinnati, talent has choices, proximity matters, innovation is the new currency. And we have to remember that when we are looking at our population losses, that talent has choices.
Now, I got a question for Kathy. What we discuss here, and what tidbits of information we throw out, are these things presented to the city commission in any way, shape, or form?
Many of the commissioners view our meetings. I do know that because I've had them call me several times, ask me who certain people are on different commissions. But,
Commission member,
Right.
we have a commission liaison, Richard, obviously. That's why I didn't state it. But they don't, as a whole, go to all the different meetings. That's why they present a liaison. If Richard sees something in our meeting that he thinks should go to the commission, he will bring it up, as he has the civic index. He has brought that up at several meetings, and the importance of it and how he believes it would really help for everyone to get involved with it, and kind of telling the other commissioners what that is all about.
Am I wrong in thinking if something were to come up, or if we had particular opinions about something, we could make a vote recommendation to the city on anything, and that would be presented to the commission, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So if something were to come up and we did want to say, hey, look at this is an issue, we could do that, and then they would have to actually view it or take it up at a meeting.
Because I was thinking of something like the Neighborhood Initiative Program that you talked about. If that's something.
Where is that?
Could be brought up to the commission.
Well, it's glad that you mentioned that, because it is part of the 2025 strategic plan. It is definitely a line item outcome in that if you go online, look in city publications, all the way at the end of it, it has that matrix where it talks about some of the initiatives for the 2025 through 29, if I'm not mistaken, strategic plan. That neighborhood initiative is back there, and so we shall.
Will there be a position then?
Well, see,
Like, will there be a
what-
person dedicated to that, or a group of people? I don't know.
What I'm asking.
Now you're in the space that I think is for the city manager to answer.
The thing about it is, what I'm saying is, you say that initiative is back there. What can we do to bring it up here and not back there? What can we do to make sure that it's something that's brought to the forefront, not left at the last line item? That people are gonna read something, get bored, and put it away before they get to the last line item.
Or if it was somebody's position, that was their responsibility to do X, Y, and Z in the communities. And I think that just, somebody was doing the engagement, was making the meetings with the, certain neighborhoods and stuff. I know Talon had a lot of meetings with different neighborhoods about different issues. That doesn't happen anymore.
Well, I wouldn't say that doesn't happen.
Well-
If you look at the rec center, there were many community engagements. They went to all different sides of Sandusky, questioned residents, asked what they wanted. If you look in the strategic plan, you'll see there is a huge push for the south side of what they're going to do. Splash pad, playground, they've already started it. If you look at the west side,
My point was a lot of that engagement happened a while, it started happening a while ago, Talon went and did all those meetings. I
Right.
remember when it happened.
Right.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen, I'm saying it doesn't happen on a regular basis across the city as much as it
I
should.
think that's probably gone more into community development and there's planning right now.
Okay.
But if you would look at the strategic plan, there are a lot of things forthcoming for different areas of Sandusky. And that was a loud voice they heard from the community saying.
Okay, now where is the strategic plan?
It is
If you go
not-
on the website, you go to on the homepage, you have city publications, and you can,
Wait. You said you go to the website.
yes,
What website?
the Sandusky website.
City of Sandusky.
Well, you sit there and that's not something that's, I'm gonna say, put to the knowledge of the residents of the city of what you can find on this website. And, how do you promote visiting the city website for issues that you may be concerned about? Where is that initiative?
I can't get it to pull up if we're being honest. I
You see
was like, I'm
the
gonna Google it.
website?
Yeah, the PDF won't pull up, so just,
It's a PDF, you said?
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
a
big.
very large PDF.
Yeah, it's a large PDF.
So I have to open it on your computer.
Yeah,
Is it cityofsandusky.org or what is it?
cityofsandusky.com.
.com?
Just Google City of Sandusky, it'll pop up.
Yep, and you hit the publications tab, and you have all of the different documents under the strategic plan. You drop down, and we
You
have the
probably
new one there.
Google
Yeah, I
City of
pull up
Sandusky
if I
strategic
pull
plan,
up
and
City
it'll
of
probably pull up
Sandusky,
the
I'm
link.
gonna get Sandusky, Michigan too.
You'll get it, but do it on a computer because it's a large.
Yeah, it's a
large
big document.
Hey, I wanted to
With that said, as we come to a conclusion, I really wanted you all to get a feel about it, what is about to happen when we go out here. These conversations and these dialogues within these, 10 to 15 group individuals in the community, actually in their spaces, and getting this information I think is a good, because before we end, I would like to see, what were your scores? Mine was 26, which put me in the strong, at the tail end of the strong in my perception.
Mine was 19, which put me at the top of average, 1 point from strong.
21.
9.
Okay,
10.
okay.
18.
12.
25.
19.
29.
17.
As
City
you can see,
employees had higher scores.
we have a normal distribution kind of floating out here, though, to where you had some on that end and on this end. So I feel that, and we are individuals who are actually here. You all are individuals that are civically involved. And so I think as we go out, just that little mini sample size, yeah, we got a little bell curve going there, right? So that is those conversations, those scores, and then those sheets, those conversations that happen within that, people are writing that down, and we take that and note that, analyze that, and then I will present that to this body and then to the commission as the outcome with tangible action steps that are aligned with the strategic plan to help address any of the things that we see out. So I wanted you all to get an opportunity to feel how this works as I get out here. I'm going to have these meetings scheduled, definitely the 2 in January by the end of the holidays, and I'll let you know if you want to stop by and participate. And kind of observe and be a part of it, so you'll have that information. But I'm looking to do 2 of these a month leading up to our March, and so we should have some data that you can kind of chew on, and then going forward to finish that thing out, report to you, and report to commission as the outcome. And that's all I had for the activity.
Well, okay, is there any other old business to discuss? Anybody have any new business? Well, since there's nothing, I'd like to have a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.